I'm dying. I'm going to die. Mommy, I love you, were some of the last words Brittany Murphy said to her mother. Brittany Murphy, the 32-year-old actress beloved for her quirky roles in film favorites like Clueless, 8 Mile, and Uptown Girls. How could she have died?
And she really seems to love life very much and makes a lot of, emancipating decisions.
Yet, there it was all over the press. It was reported that the actress collapsed in her West Hollywood home and was soon declared dead. What had happened to her? Well, according to the coroner, Brittany passed away due to natural causes. That was when the rest of the world raised their eyebrow. How does a woman in her 30s pass away from natural causes? 5 months later, her husband died under the same circumstances. Something didn't seem right. What fans didn't know is that her husband might have played a bigger role in her passing than anyone could have realized. Stay tuned to Rumor Juice while we break down the mystery surrounding Brittany Murphy's tragic passing. Don't forget to hit that notification bell too. Questions have continued to come up over the years since Brittany's passing. And in November 2013, Murphy's father, Angelo Bertolotti, told Good Morning America what he really thought.
I have a feeling that there was a definite murder situation here. Yeah, it's poison, yes, I know that.
However, Murphy's father hadn't been a present figure in her life. The actress had a tight-knit relationship with her mother, Sharon. Close friends described the mother-daughter duo as adorable together. They were so close that they often finished each other's sentences. They were both bright, bubbly, and cherished one another.
And to be able to then be with each other every day for that amount of time was just the rarest of all treats.
Ever since Brittany came to Hollywood at 13, Sharon had dedicated herself to her daughter. In turn, Brittany had put her career on hold twice when Sharon had bouts of breast cancer shortly after the making of Clueless, and again in 2003 when Brittany camped out in her mom's hospital room. So when Sharon heard the claims that her daughter's father was making, she was enraged. She immediately denied Angelo's words. His claims are based on the most flimsy of evidence and are more of an insult than an insight into what really happened. So what really happened? As it turns out, both Brittany's mother and her husband, Simon Monjack, were both at home with the actress when she collapsed.
I woke up the morning after my wife died and there was a thing saying murderer.
Calling you a murderer?
Yeah, that I murdered my wife.
In order to explain what happened on the tragic day of her death, we need to go back 1 month before she died. In November 2009, Murphy traveled to San Juan, Puerto Rico, to film the movie The Caller, and her husband and mother went with her. Unfortunately, things immediately went wrong. Murphy was fired the first day, with some reports pointing fingers at Monjack's on-set drunken behavior. However, the trio decided to stay on the island and make a holiday out of what was supposed to be a work trip. Monjack and Sharon both caught Staphylococcus, a bacterial infection that often starts off as a cold. On the flight back to Los Angeles, Murphy had to give her husband CPR after he allegedly collapsed from a mild heart attack. Eventually, Murphy also caught the infection and she fell incredibly ill. By mid-December, she had a terrible bout of laryngitis. For 6 weeks, she thought she could overcome it and didn't seek medical attention, but finally called on Friday to make an appointment for Monday. Sadly, she never made it through that weekend. Being sick had become something Brittany just accepted. There was no sense of urgency to see a doctor because she and Simon practiced their own form of holistic medicine, meaning they picked and chose among medicines and doctors at their own convenience. Despite her problems, Brittany had not seen a doctor for 6 weeks, though she consulted by phone a few times and had talked to a pharmacist. They were always afraid the paparazzi would find out if they were seen as sick and that it would hurt their job prospects in Hollywood. The paranoia Brittany had about the public learning of her medical problems played into Simon's conspiracy theories about people being out to get her. He stroked that paranoia and used it to gain control over Brittany in a surprisingly short time. The actress didn't date until she was 21, then went on to having several relationships that all seemed to fail. She had one with Ashton Kutcher for 6 months after they met on Just Married in 2002.
I really love this very much. This is a really good test run, and I know that I need to do this in my life.
was engaged to a Hollywood talent manager for 4 months in 2004, and was engaged to a production assistant she met on Little Black Book in 2005. Then came her whirlwind romance with Simon. Britney saw the stocky Englishman with the sexy accent and deep voice as he portrayed himself, a wealthy, educated, cultured filmmaker. He swept her off her feet, told her all the things she wanted to hear. From then on, Simon never slept a night away from her. Shortly after that, they were married by a rabbi at Britney's home. Nearly all of the handful of guests were Britney's employees or vendors. Simon's best man turned out to be her chauffeur. Unfortunately, what Murphy didn't know is that almost everything her new husband said to her was either dramatized or completely untrue. His own mother confessed that Simon also had no problem spinning tales to get his way with women on both sides of the Atlantic, leaving a trail of broken hearts, unpaid bills, and angry fiancés. A woman he met in London in 1999 later described Simon as very manipulative and said he lied to her about his wealth and properties. Despite being confronted with the truth of her husband's lies, Britney refused to believe it or chose to ignore it. She was in love, fiercely loyal, and only saw the best in Simon. Britney believed Simon would provide the financial stability she needed, help revive her career, and allow her to fulfill her dream of becoming a mother.
As far as having a New Year's resolution, I'd love to have a child next year.
Tragically, she never got the chance to have a child of her own. Many of Britney's family members and friends came to believe that Simon had created a web of paranoia around Britney and used it to separate her from anyone who might have challenged his dominance. Slowly, the actress sank deeper into the paranoia that the world was out to get her and that she'd never work in the industry again. She became isolated from her friends and family until it was just her mother and Simon by her side. Even though she was dealing with her own ailments, Murphy had been taking care of both her mother and her husband following their holiday together. Her mother struggled with severe nerve damage after surviving breast cancer, and Simon dealt with seizures and sleep apnea. Britney put her own needs aside and did everything she could to make sure her loved ones were taken care of before her.
All you do is take, and I've got nothing for you right now, so...
Trapped in her $3.9 million home she bought in 2003 from Britney Spears, the only comfort zone she could escape to was her bathroom. Sadly, her thoughts were anything but calm. She spent hours sampling the cosmetics and perfumes that crowded every inch of counter space, critically studying her body image, a family friend wrote. Britney had self-image issues. The thing she was very conscious of was her height. She felt she was short. So one reason she controlled her weight was the thinner you are, the taller you look. Martha Coolidge, who directed Britney in the Lifetime movie tribute, said of the actress, "There was only one thought that kept her going, a fresh start in New York City. She thought that if they could only press the restart button in a new city, Monjack could find work as a screenwriter and director, and she could get back into independent films. But that December, Saturday night, things could not have gotten worse. On her final night, Britney was gasping for breath, her lips turning blue from a lack of oxygen as her lungs filled with fluid. Soon after, she fell in the bathroom and told her mom, 'I'm dying. I'm going to die. Mommy, I love you.' Her mom desperately called 911, but it was too late."
Tell me exactly what happened.
Oh, somebody's passed out!
Somebody what?
My daughter's passed out!
In 2010, an updated coroner's report was released, citing anemia and prescription drugs playing a role in her death that ultimately was caused by community-acquired pneumonia. He also went on to add that Britney had been sick for at least 2 weeks, and had she seen a doctor sooner, she probably would have gotten the help that she needed. While the world continued searching for explanations for Murphy's passing, another shocking occurrence was revealed. Monjack died on May 23, 2010, at the age of 39. He had died from the same causes that took his late wife, and to make things even more tragic, his body was found in the same room too. It is impossible to know if Britney might still be alive had Simon not come into her life. However, it seems obvious that he brought out her worst traits and contributed to an incredibly toxic atmosphere that was deadly to her. Britney needed someone who showered her in love and allowed her to thrive. But instead, Simon pushed her loved ones away and made the actress her own worst enemy. The death of a young and talented artist is always difficult for fans to wrap their heads around. There's no doubt that had Britney lived, she would have been a trailblazer in the film industry.